Christians who say, "Oh, I don't watch any TV or any movies because sex and violence," and they don't watch any of it. Then the other side would just sort of like, it's just entertainment. And they both are uneducated and both are being manipulated.
Yeah, I'm so blessed to connect with you because you're a Christian, you're a screenwriter. So I gotta pick this guy's brain. And you had alluded to it earlier, talking about your novels. And I do want to talk about Cruel Logic in a little bit, but talking about screenwriting and novels, you're talking about like, oh, the Christian community wouldn't touch it. The the secular community wouldn't touch it because it fell into this weird realm, which leads me
Yeah,
to this book right here. In your book, Hollywood Worldviews, Watching Films of Wisdom and Discernment, you have some amazing insight. I mean, you really bring up some great points. There's a couple terms that you used, and I went, "That's what it is." There's a cultural anorexic, and then there's a cultural glutton. So
yeah,
if you can, I read it. I go, he's totally right on this because this is where my brain goes. We have the pure flicks crowd over here,
yeah,
and right, we got the pure flicks crowd over here, and then we're going, but we like to watch John Wick too. So
yeah,
and there's violence in the Bible, like you said. I mean,
yeah,
you got Ezekiel, you got in Isaiah. Yahweh is calling or Israel the whore, the harlot, and is using graphic terms to describe the old covenant bride. So so people they kind of blush a little bit when you say, well, you realize that he calls God calls Jerusalem or Israel a whore. He's calling her names because she's a harlot. She's committing adultery with these
yeah.
idols.
Ezekiel 16 and 23 tell a fictional story of Israel and Samaria,
Yeah,
or I'm sorry, Judah and Israel, and you're right, he describes them as whores, having sex with every god, every deity that passes on the highway, and then it talks about them gang raping her and putting her body up and such. So you're right. One of the factors that drove me to write that book, Hollywood Worldviews, was precisely at the time that I felt that there was, and there still is, though less of it, these two extremes where Christians will say, "Oh, I don't watch any TV or any movies because sex and violence," and they don't watch any of it. Then the other side would just sort of like, it's just entertainment. And they both are uneducated and both are being manipulated. And I felt when I was studying screenwriting as a screenwriter, reading all the books, following the storytelling gurus, I realized that what they were saying was that storytelling is about redemption. And the redemption in a story is very much exactly like how I was taught from the Bible to give my personal testimony of conversion, how I changed my mind from seeing the world one way to another way, and what were the life circumstances that caused that to happen. And I realized that there's such an affinity between storytelling and the Bible and Christian redemption that I wanted to help Christians and Jews, any religious people who like the Bible. I wanted
yeah,
to show them that, or teach them how to see how worldviews are communicated in stories and in movies and in television and even in songs, if you think about it, right? But these two extremes would be the difficulty, right? Those who wouldn't even watch it, and then those who watch too much without discernment.
sure.
And I felt that if you could, it's sort of like art appreciation. You can watch a movie and just absorb it and be controlled by it, or if you understand what's going on in the story, you know what to look for. You know what to look for the protagonist. What is their internal flaw? What are they seeking? What's their goal? What is the uh, what what is the external goal that the villain's trying to stop the hero, and how that all works together to create the redemption or the redemptive storyline for the hero. And some people have heard of the hero's journey, by Joseph Campbell and such. It's similar to that. And there's this sort of universal paradigm of the hero's journey, and it really does reflect personal redemption. Now, personal redemption is not an exclusive Christian concept. There is humanist redemption. There is, atheistic redemption, right? They would believe that everybody has a notion of the creation, fall, and redemption within their worldview. So an atheist, we know the Christian version of that, but the atheist version would be, or the secular humanist version might be, oh, the problem with man is religion. Man was in an evolved state. He was free. And then religion came and bound man up. And so now redemption, we find redemption by freeing ourselves from the restrictions, arbitrary restrictions of power that religion forces upon us, that kind of a thing. And so, the question is what is the redemption that's being taught in the story? And when you learn about storytelling, you realize that in order to effectively communicate redemption, you must accurately depict the evil from which you're being redeemed. And that's where the sex and violence comes in, where while I would agree that, this is nuanced, we have to draw lines, we have to discuss this stuff. Nevertheless, if you don't accurately depict the sin that you're being redeemed from, the power of your redemption has no impact on people.
Yeah.
And and you have to realize that the sins that are depicted in the beginning of the story are often in the hero's life are often the sins from which he's being redeemed, whether it's adultery or whether it's murder or what have you. This character we have to show him before his redemption and after. And that's really no different from the Bible, is it? Right? We see whether it's David committing adultery with Bathsheba or having her husband murdered, right? Or, when he's worshiping God and when he's in a redeemed state. So that's just the nature of storytelling. As people can understand that, they can realize the purpose of some of that evil and sin depicted in movies is not just gratuitous, it's actually can be beneficial. Now, that doesn't mean, therefore, it's all acceptable. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm trying to help Christians have a better, more biblical foundation upon which they can begin to assess movies with more wisdom and discernment. But of course, it's been, boy, when that book first came out, it was like 20 years ago. And a lot has changed. I think that a lot of Christians have become more wise and more discerning. And I think there's more of an intelligent observation of movies that I'm actually grateful to see. So I'm grateful for that.
And I think you're right, Ryan, because what I think happened too? I think 2020 happened. And all of a sudden, there was a complete and I always said this, is when you start, like everyone was just kind of going along, going, no big deal. That'll never happen here. That'll never happen here. And it's kind of like what you were alluding to earlier, like that stuff happens over there. It doesn't happen here. But once it hits close to home, you go, oh, shoot, this is happening here. And then once you start attacking, because a lot of people have child worship. So once you start attacking what their children are learning and it's getting back to the parent, they go, wait, hold the phone. You can do all that over here, but now you're attacking my kid. What are you teaching them? Everybody got red pilled, right? They all got red pilled. They went, wait, I got to get more involved. I got to see what's going on. So as a lot of people saying, oh, it's getting worse, worse, and worse, I feel like that ship is starting to turn a little bit where you go, no, people are waking up. They're seeing this. Yeah, they're waking up. They're seeing this. And now they're checking whatever website, whatever discernment website they need to go, do I need to go see what's in the Barbie movie? What's in what's in this film over here? What's going on with the new Avengers? Because even with Endgame, they slip a little something in there, and you go, oh, okay, but you almost don't notice it because we're so used to it, right? And we're so used to it. And Vodi Bakum had talked about it a long time ago about that those two Harvard professors back in like 1990. They said this is how you take over the culture. What you do is you have to jam and desensitize. And you can see it in the 90s on TV. You would get jammed. You go, what was that? Did we just see that? And
Yeah.
then we
Yeah.
started getting desensitized to it. Now it's just normal, just the way it is. I
Yeah.
mean, so what?
That's strategy. That's a strategic way for what I call subversion in my book. And what that means is the subversion is sort of the universal historic means by which every storyteller influences their culture. They draw from the well known images or symbols or concepts or stories that are known by the culture, and they retell those stories, but they invest them with new meaning or they change the definitions. And they do it subtly at first, but eventually that's how you ultimately control the culture. And by the way, that's what everybody does, including the Bible. The Bible did that as well. The Bible used a lot of pagan concepts like Leviathan, the sea dragon of chaos, which was a concept that was existing in all the ancient cultures long before Israel. But it's a symbol in the Bible that's used to describe the world without God, or the unknown, or the desert, or the sea, these worlds that we can't control as little human beings, but our God can control the chaos. He creates his order out of chaos, right? So the sea dragon, Leviathan, shows up in the Bible, right? God simply took images that were known and he invested them with his own meaning. In the same way, now as we know, Hollywood retells Bible stories like Exodus, Gods and Kings, or the Noah movie, where they're told by atheists and they make God out to be a crazy mad man in a very real sense, and they invest it with new meaning. So retelling stories with new meaning is sort of the essence of subversion, but it's really what we all do because you want to, we're a part of the culture that we are, right? And so you draw from those images and things that are very common, just like I would, I've written or told a vampire story. Yeah, that's common in our culture. Horror stories, common in our culture. But we can retell those stories and invest them with our own worldview, just like everybody else does.